We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
You are now tuned in to WDC Radio.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host. I'm WDC. I want to thank you for tuning in and listening today. As always, I have a very spectacular, important show for you. I just got a lot of information going on to tell you today. I mean, the show is important. It's sickle cell awareness month, put it to you that way. And so we talk about sickle cell trait, we talk about sickle cell disease, we talk about finding a cure, we talk about all the different aspects of sickle cell, not just in September, but for a year round long. And so today, you know, I'm honored to be here on LA Talk Live to have this show as a platform to talk about, you know, my cause as far as sickle cell trait, as my conversation in this awareness piece here. And as you know, it's how can I tell you, the quality of life, I think is important, an important topic to have, because we live our lives, you know, in these moments in time, and we plan for the future, and having all that going on in life. Some of us deal with illnesses which impacts us in another level of part of life, and we're worried about this. We're worried about if this is the last crisis. You know, so much different aspects, and so I was thinking, as I've been doing this advocacy work, and about quality of life. And I know for myself personally, I will tell you that when I got out of the military, was on my way out of the military, I had this, you know, these thoughts of my life being over when I got out of the service, and what the military told me about my career, and just how, like, what was I going to do? Literally, that was my issue, was what was I going to do? 24 years in the service. And what I noticed when I look back now was it's in some languages it's called the future of uncertainty. And the future of uncertainty is where we can't control what happens in the future, right? We just have no control. We think that we can control it by our actions, about what we do and about what we say, but we really think that we can control the future. And when there's a loss of control of your future and of your life, you know, things begin to happen around us. Behavior starts to change. Our actions start to change. The thought process start to change, and we start to look in the future of, as far as the future of what's going to happen to me next week, what's going to happen to me this week, what's going to happen to me in a year from now, and all that wondering sometimes triggers worrying and anxiety. And the mental aspect of sickle cell is a part of this conversation that's near and dear to my heart, not only because I have sickle cell trait and being in that environment of anxiety and stress and worry. I wanted to have this conversation, and so I've been posting on it. If you go to WDC, at IMWDC on Twitter, Instagram, or WDC Radio on Facebook, you'll see the post about the conversations that I wanted to have today. So I've got a lot of feedback in the social media world. So if you're listening, please call in 323-473-3100. I'll give you an opportunity to share your piece. I can't speak from the sickle cell disease aspect of it because I only have the trait, but I have someone here who will help me identify what this sounds like and looks like with a person living with the disease. I also have my expert, as always. I'm blessed to have Dr. Maisha, a part of the show, who's on the line in a second. I'm going to bring her on. But what I'm calling it right now is called the future of uncertainty. And what it looks like is that we focus on so much in the future that the quality of life that we have today, we don't get it. We don't really enjoy it. We're not happy because of the anxiety of the future, and we can't control what's happening or what's going to happen to us. And so that spirals us, into a certain type of mindset. And usually for human beings is not a positive mindset. It's more of a worry kind of thought process. And then the anxiety. And if you're like me, you got body sensations that attach to that. And my knees get weak and up all night. And I just really wanted to take this show today to interrupt that as much as possible, for you to look in your life and see where this anxiety takes place, in what aspect of life. Because as human beings, we have various different aspects of life that are important to us. There's religion, there's spiritual aspects, there's fun, there's work environment. There's so many different aspects of life that all of us have different ones, and they're different. So what's important to you might be your family, and what's important to somebody else might be, fun or career or retirement. So how do we look inside of our lives to see what's triggering all this anxiety and of what we're worrying about, as far as I'm saying it as the future of uncertainty? And why that's important on this show today, again, this is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. And I was blessed to be at the event in Loma Linda last week, which was totally awesome. And KC is here, was a guest, was the keynote speaker, I would say, and shared his story, and where there was sickle cell trait testing brought to you by WDC on SCT, with Medilab there doing sickle cell trait screening. And it was the environment. I was late because I was coming from Boston. But the environment that I saw when I got there at 4 o'clock was like, I was like, wow. And so speaking to Pat Corley outside after it was over, and Sheila Marchbanks and the community that was there, I asked him, I'm like, you know what, this is where my mind has been. And my mind has been about the quality of life. And not being able to speak for the sickle cell disease community, I can't do that. But I posed that question of, what do you think about the quality of life and versus the cure? And most of our community is focused on, when is we going to get the cure for sickle cell? Like, when is the cure? And all the walks and the drives and everything that's focusing on the cure. But then what about that person's quality of life? Like, in the moment, like right now, what is their mental state? What is their mental health? What are they concerned about? What are they worried about? And it gets kind of twisted up just from my own experience. And so I have Dr. Maisha here. I have Casey, who I'm going to bring on the camera in a second. When you hear that, Casey, the future of uncertainty and the cure, I mean, those are important. I mean, they're important topics of our community. At the same time, I say on my show that there is a reality to sickle cell.
Yeah, there is.
There is just a reality to it. And the reality of it is pain, is crisis. Like that's the real part about it. But you don't, I don't want to say you don't have to.
I have a lot to share from the sickle cell disease perspective.
Yes.
And as soon as you said about camera,
So
I'll go at it from my perspective.
I'm setting it up so people can really hear that if you're tuning in. This show today is about quality of life versus the cure. All right. And I know that the cure is a very important, will be a very huge accomplishment. It will be a life-changing experience for the millions of people across the country, across the world who have this global health issue. But until we have the cure, where are we at today?
Where are we at with
where are we at today with who you are as a person? And I want to interrupt your thought process. I want to interrupt how you view yourself in this world around sickle cell, and really get to some topics and some heartfelt conversations about mental health, about the mental state, about your mindset, about your points of view and concerns about who you are. And KC, man, just introduce yourself to the listeners, man, before we go any further.
Guys, hi, my name is KC. I'm a 57-year-old man living with sickle SC disease. I also advocate in the sickle cell community. Again, I had a great opportunity this last weekend to speak at Loma Linda, and a lot of the issues that Farron is talking about, where our mental state, where are we at today, where we are at in that place of peace in our lives and that joy in our lives that we need for our lives to have value. And the whole theme of the Loma Linda event was a merry heart doeth good like medicine. And I feel a lot of that, what Farron is saying is that, we need to be able to deal with the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis from a perspective that's going to give us a quality of life that produces joy, that produces peace, that produces the relationship values that we really say are important. And so, again, there are a lot of issues. I mean, the cure obviously would be something that, would be a great blessing to our community. And certainly, as far as future quality of life, once you're cured, you don't have to deal with some of the issues that come with, living a life with this disease. Living 57 years with sickle cell disease, I have it manifested in my body what this disease does over time. And so for me to try and find the quality of life dealing with all the issues that sickle cell has brought into my life, things like kidney disease, liver disease. I'm now having to deal with some issues with my lungs and avascular necrosis, neuropathy. All of these things can work together to really destroy your quality of life. And so, again, and not only that, but a cure now for me, even if I was completely cured of sickle cell tomorrow, I would still need to try and have a quality of life dealing with all these issues. And that's true of many people who are living with sickle cell right now. The ancillary issues that come with sickle cell don't go away once you get cured. And
that's something that we're going to talk about, Casey, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I said that conversation at Loma Linda on Sunday, one of the comments from the young woman was, well, even after there's a cure, if we're not taking care of ourselves today,
Amen.
What sickle cell is doing to our bodies, will your body even be ready for the cure? Because of the organ, right. Because of the physical damage and with all the secondary complications Absolutely. To sickle cell, will your body even be ready for the cure?
Right.
So that's even something that we don't even really think about or talk about, that I hear,
right.
As far as, the results of the cure and what's leading up to the cure and where you are physically, mentally, to even be able to, have your body ready for the cure.
Right, and again, when I hear you, speaking about this theme, I mean, I really only want to speak from my perspective and the disease that I've been dealing with. And again, the cure is not the answer for a quality of life for me.
Yeah.
The answer is in what I do today to increase my quality of life. The efforts that I've made to change my diet and to try and be more aware of the things that I put into my body.
Yeah.
Again, just the relationships that you build in the community of supportive people, having that support around you and those people who love you and lift you up and those things that increase your quality of life. And so I'm definitely weighing in on the quality of life side of this conversation, because I think the cure, when it comes, I mean, of course, we already have a cure with the bone marrow transplant, but it's a very limited cure.
And they say cure because it's not a universal cure.
Right.
So when people think about cure, it's like it's going to be for everybody.
For everybody.
But bone marrow transplants have been successful in a lot of people. So we don't discount that as not being a cure, but it's not a universal cure. So the language to me is important when you look at the definition of what a cure is, and then what we are actually looking for in what we want as a cure.
Absolutely, because a bone marrow transplant is something that's not going to help me at all. I mean, even if I had a matching sibling donor, which is what's necessary for that, or got lucky in the bone marrow lottery,
Right.
That treatment would kill me. Where I'm at in a place of this disease, you have to be a very healthy person to have that. So it is certainly not a universal cure. And there are people who would love to see something, come up that would be available for everybody. And in the meantime, like you said,
Now I'm going to introduce Dr. Maisha, but I want to actually have some more talks with you, Casey.
Sure.
But I want to be respectful and bring on Dr. Maisha so she can just share with us what's going on. So let me get Dr. Maisha, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
Good
Hey
evening.
there, Dr.
Good evening,
Maisha.
everyone.
Good to hear from you again.
Oh, it's always wonderful to be a part of this. I'm very honored, to be included in this mission and to be able to lend my expertise. These kinds of missions are why I became a physician, to help the community and make things better. So this issue is so near and dear to my heart that the future of uncertainty is just a profound concept that really captures the depth of what actually causes a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the behaviors that sometimes get misinterpreted in and around this disease, and you brought up, Casey, the best points in addressing, one, bone marrow transplants are only effective for a very limited group of the population.
Very limited group of our population.
If you can find someone to give you that bone marrow, then your body, it's a transplant. It's a transplant. Like any other transplant, you have to suppress a person's immune system in a disease by which the immune system has already been suppressed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're hitting them again with a double whammy. It's that double-edged sword that we constantly seem to be up against in trying to address this disease in some sort of a positive manner. And dealing with the future of uncertainty, it makes me think of Farron's lovely mother, because the only way you can honestly, really, really, truly get a grip on that is through your spiritual perspective. Because as a physician, I can tell you this and that all day and all night. But the reality is, what makes this disease so terrifying? Cancer patients, they go through their cancer treatment. They either get cured or they don't. They get cured, go into remission, and maybe it comes back again. With sickle cell, it comes back again and again and again and again and again. And just when you've hit your stride, you've made plans, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to travel here, you're going to travel there, you're going to take a class, you're going to accomplish X, Y, or Z, here comes sickle cell to say, oh, really? Well, you got to get through me first. And that creates, just a depth of anxiety that in the medical community, we can't cure that. There's no cure for that because it's just true. I can't lie to you and say, oh, you're never going to have another crisis. That's not going to happen. And once you get a bone marrow transplant, you're dealing with all of the myriad of medical problems that come along with having a transplant.
Yeah. And that's, Dr. Maisha, what I was saying as far as, living in the moment and that future of uncertainty it's
amazing.
It's a battle because your mind and your thoughts tell you one thing and then what reality says is totally different. And understanding, I'll say getting related to the reality of sickle cell versus the impact of it, how do we begin to alter the mindset, Dr. Maisha? Because I mean, Casey will I best tell you from experience, you're born with sickle cell.
Yeah.
So you're born into the world with sickle cell since day one.
Yeah.
So your environment, his environment has shaped his thoughts about even what sickle cell is even about.
Yes, and that's why when you say sickle cell warriors, and you refuse to call it a disease, these kinds of things that you've done help to lay the framework for changing the psychiatry and the psychology around it. One way that can maybe be of benefit to people is to realize you're not alone.
Yeah.
Every human being on the face of this earth is facing some kind of repetitive challenge.
Something.
And it may not be, this dreadful pain that we, see in sickle cell and sickle cell trait, but it can be just as challenging for that person as sickle cell is for someone dealing with sickle cell, or trait is for someone dealing with trait. Because with trait, the lack of recognition of its havoc generates a lot more of that future of uncertainty with someone with trait who's dealing with the illness and not being able to get treatment because it's not recognized as a problem. Yeah. So no matter how you cut it, every human being on this earth is going through something. So I think, number one, realizing that you're not alone. Number two, starting to realize that other people have been where you are. And they made it. Somehow they made it through. You may not be able to accomplish everything you want to accomplish, but the truth is no one accomplishes everything they want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? So when Farron says living in the moment, that is number three. Living in the moment is a very tricky thing. When you are in the middle of a crisis, what you need to do is not live in that moment.
Wow.
Say that again.
Say it.
When you are in the middle of a crisis, you need to not live in that moment. You need to take your mind to a wonderful, beautiful moment as much as you can. And mentally put yourself in that place. And in between crises, you juice everything you can out of life on the in-between.
Amen.
And because if you sit there thinking about when the next challenge is going to come, living in the moment applies to the in-between. When things are nice, when you maybe have a little chronic pain or some of the chronic, but you're managing that, and you can actually engage life, at least to some extent, and engaging life to that extent at that moment, and purposely refusing to think about that moment that you know is coming when that next crisis hits.
I'm going to say something, Dr. Maisha.
I'd like to follow up with something.
When you say, how living in the moment, in most conversation, when you hear something going on with a person, what do you say? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do about that? Like, what are you going to do about that, right? But I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time. We are human beings, not human doings. So
That's right.
So the being of the human being is going to determine what actions you do. So if you're frustrated,
I like that.
if you're frustrated in life,
Yeah.
then it's not actually what are you gonna do? You're gonna say I'm gonna do something that's frustrating.
Right.
But if the dynamic is if you're in the midst of being frustrated and you can be calm in what we describe in language as frustrated, and now you take that human being to be calm, then guess what's going to shift in that frustration is actually become calm. So the dynamic that Dr. Maisha is saying is what you got to do in that moment is going to be key to who you got to be in that moment. You got to be courageous and confident, and there's whatever that word is, a way of being in that moment of your crisis. You got to if you're a sickle cell warrior, then you got to be a warrior.
Yeah,
and what do warriors do? Right. So what do warriors do?
They fight.
So to be a warrior, who do you have to be that warrior? You've got to be calm. You've got to be, in the moment. You've got to be knowledgeable.
To be prepared.
Like you've got to be a certain way
Certainly.
to do that action.
Certainly.
And we look at it, sometimes I don't want to say out of order, but how we think
Right.
is going to determine who we be first. And that human being is going to determine your actions. And I think that's going to be the different dynamic of how it shows up in your life. As if I'm a warrior, then I'm going to be a warrior, and then I'm going to do what warriors do.
Right.
Go ahead.
And again, I wanted to follow up on a little bit of what Dr. Misha was saying, especially about that point of crisis in your life and what you're able to do. And when you say the uncertainty of the future, I mean, one of the things about being a sickle cell warrior is that you're asked to be a warrior in your weakest moments.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing to, be feeling good that day and get on the battlefield, but it's like when you're in that weakest point of your life is when you're in crisis. And then we have the uncertainty of the hospital visit. We have the uncertainty of, being admitted to a hospital and how I'm going to be treated. And all of those different anxieties that come from the uncertainty of that moment of crisis,
Before you even get there.
Before you even get there. Right. You just realize that this crisis is kicking off on you, and now you're in a world of uncertainty. Am I going to find an emergency room physician who's actually going to care enough to treat my pain with humanity? Am I going to have the uncertainty of, being admitted and then having the admitting doctor not care, not give me the medicine that I need? Are the nurses going to treat me with love and compassion and show up on time? We have all of these lists of uncertainties in that moment of crisis.
Yeah.
And so our quality of life, again, it's so dependent upon our support systems and the people that we have that pick us up in that minute, because warriors always have somebody who has their back. You don't go into a battle alone.
Right.
You have to have that person who has your back. And it's just so important for us to even be able to consider, being able to have peace. I know my advocate is here with me.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not going to have to worry about fighting with the doctor. I got somebody who will do that for me, so I can focus on keeping myself in a place of peace and calm, and not have to be out of, and that's just coming from my experience. And
I'm thinking like you said initially, when that crisis is happening, you're thinking like, who do I got to be like to go to the hospital?
Right. Which hospital am I going to go to?
Who do I have to be to get the courage up to say I got to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
And so look at who you got to be in that moment and be that kind of person. If it takes you courage to get up off of that sofa out of bed to go to the doctor, that's courage.
Certainly.
We have courage in our life,
but
we don't tend to be courageous in all areas of our life.
True. True.
So that same courage that you have to do whatever that aspect of life is important, imagine you had that same courage to have the confidence that hospital is going to take care of you, because if you don't, waiting at home could be that crisis, that the one that puts you under.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, sometimes like you said, our experience, frames our thought. And, when you've had repeated negative experiences, it's hard to continually get up like that. And so again,
Dr.
it's a great conversation, guys.
Dr. Maisha,
really
you got some more
technical
technical terms for us?
Say that again.
You
I'm
got
sorry.
you got some more terms for us?
You were making a list there. I was excited. I was like, oh, she makes it going.
I think that the place where the conversation is going right now is absolutely perfect. Because the next thing that he dealt with is you're in that moment of extreme weakness. And in that moment of extreme weakness is when you're asked to be the strongest. And for me, to accomplish that means you have to become a person who elevates spiritually to a place that most people can't get to.
Yeah.
And that's where you begin to realize the blessing that God has put in it.
Yes.
In the midst of it. Because if you're going to make it through this disease, you have to elevate. And in the process of elevating, you have a beautiful light to shine and give and share with the world.
Amen.
And to begin to stop seeing ourselves as victims and realize that we're going through a process. The diamonds are formed deep under high pressure.
Yes.
Yes. And coming to this realization that, and truly, and this is very difficult to attain. Easy to say, difficult to attain.
Definitely.
But truly, God is enough for me.
Amen.
And if this is what I'm supposed to be going through, there's something in it that I'm supposed to get and supposed to give. And take yourself into a zone of peacefulness at that worst time, to be able to look deep into the eyes of another human being and communicate your pain without communicating frustration or anger or victimization.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's a process every time, because there's times when you're going to sit there and say, I just don't feel like going and being that sick person today.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the truth.
So you have to take your mind out of, I'm not being a sick person. This is, I'm being a person who's going through a high pressure
You're being responsible.
Right.
You're being a responsible person for your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm being responsible. I'm being resilient.
There you go.
And I'm teaching something. It's like a prophet. We call him Eunice. We call him Eunice. I think you call him Jonah. And his sin was that he ran away from the difficult task that God gave him. And that's why he had to go into the well, and the well spit him right back up into the city of Nineveh.
Yeah. Right,
and
back
he still had to do his job. And that's like sickle cell. We keep running away, going into it, spit that. We still got to do it. No choice.
No choice.
And there's a certain amount of beauty in being in that position where you have to deal with something, because like I said in the beginning, everybody is dealing with something.
Right.
And this future of uncertainty, it really applies to so many people in so many situations, because what you're really dealing with is trauma.
Yeah.
And the results of trauma.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of us experience that.
Right. And
being born is traumatic.
And that's one, Dr. Maisha, is where I'm saying, we talk about the reality about sickle cell. We're not discounting the pain or any of that when we say that. We're saying that if you look in your life, that is the reality across the country.
It is. It's the reality for all of us.
For people who live with sickle cell, that is the reality of sickle cell, which is pain. There's crisis. There's medication. There's transfusions. There's all those different things that go along with having sickle cell, which is across the board. Anybody from any part of the country would tell you their life experience. Story. You'll hear the same relatedness conversation.
Sure.
So if we look, put it this way, even what we're talking about right now is all described in language. I'm not saying that even this conversation is the right conversation. It's described in language, and we have language as human beings. So how we language what's going on in our life is going to be up to us, whether it's defeating us in a conversation or it's uplifting us in the conversation. Sure. And that starts to shift your mindset. How I dealt with my future of uncertainty as from the military relatedness to the community is that I had to start to live my life in not out so far in the future of even next week. I had to retrain my brain, my thoughts, to start to think, you know what? Today I have everything that I need today.
Amen.
I have gas in my car. I got money. I have a place to live. I got family. I got friends. Today,
Amen.
everything I have today. And you know what? If I'm blessed to live tomorrow, I have that tomorrow too.
Amen.
So there is no future. If we believe what you believe in, there is no future. There's only right
There's
now.
only today.
You
Yeah,
just said
I'm a big
exactly
believer in
what
that.
I
It's
was
like you
gonna,
can't reach too
Yeah.
far beyond. Well, you really can't. I mean, all you got is today.
All you got is today.
All
We
you
can
have is
plan
today.
for. I can plan for
Right.
for tomorrow, but my thoughts don't have to be so engulfed in that tomorrow that's where I'm at.
Right.
And so I had
Yes.
to personally live 2 days out.
Wow.
And from 2 days out, from today is Saturday till Monday, I know right now that I can show you proof that I got everything that I need today, and it'll probably last me tomorrow until Monday. Now next month, I couldn't tell you what I'm gonna have next month,
Amen.
and so I had to
Right.
literally start to retrain my, tell myself and talk myself down to like, and you know what, Dr. Maisha, my mental health provider was telling me that in the midst of my depression. He was saying you gotta
Right.
scale back your life. You can't be as active as you used to be. You gotta scale back. And at the moment, I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
To scale. What do you mean scale back my life, man? I got stuff to do.
I
Right.
hear you, brother. I hear you.
So I can only imagine as far as this community
I have to
of what
keep
that's like.
Doing that, I have to continually scale back because there's so much to do, especially in the sickle cell community, and we care and we want to do and we see things. I mean, people are talking to us about things coming up next year, coming up, and you really can get to that place where you're so far ahead of yourself, and man. Scale back,
And it's just, I think
I have
it's
to
natural.
keep readjusting my life to like that because I just get so much on my plate.
I think, Dr. Maisha, it's just natural for human beings to go to the lack of versus where we are as accomplishments, as where we are as today.
Yes.
It's like even social media has you going to the lack.
Before you evolve, that's where you're going to be.
Yes.
It
Right.
takes evolution
Yes.
to within yourself as a person. It takes a spiritual, mental, emotional evolution to get where that stops being the case.
But what if
And
that
things have to
person is
develop
not?
in your brain?
What if that
change.
person is not spiritual? What if that person is not at the level of where we're talking at today, where they're in that? I don't know anybody with sickle cell. I haven't met nobody. Like, what if they're in that part of life where they don't have that spiritual, outlet? Then what?
Again, I think
Yes, and then you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. You have to have some sort of mentality.
you got to believe
Whether
in
you want to
something.
call
Gotta
it
believe in something.
spiritual,
Gotta
or new
believe in
age
something.
meditation, or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. Whatever you
Where
want to
you
call
take
it.
your mind to a different place when you're in the midst of the pain, as best you can, because that pain's gonna keep bringing you back to the present, no matter what you
No
do.
doubt.
But as much as you can, the minute you can take yourself to a different place, you do so. Then you come back, and you go back, and you keep going back. And there were even studies, people going through war or concentration camps, things like that. The people who would spend at least part of the day putting their mind into the wonderful things they used to do, or the wonderful things they would do if they weren't where they were. Those were the people that had healthier lives once the trauma was over. Because you're in the future of uncertainty. You start planning, and you transform the uncertainty from a bad thing into possibility.
Yeah.
So instead of becoming a future of uncertainty, it becomes the future of possibility,
Possibilities.
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep.
That's
of
Yeah.
good possibilities
Yeah.
that can come to you. And when you start doing that, you transform the energy, and the energy around you changes.
Yeah.
To where the doctors and the nurses, they all feel that. And they're like, I don't know, this one is different. Everybody loves a winner.
Yes.
Everybody loves a winner. Everybody wants to be on that winning team. And you have to transform yourself to make yourself the winning team. We're actually winning. We are getting to this place where we are so in touch with something deeper in the human soul that we're evolving. And I think that, it's like in the part in the Matrix where the little kid is bending the spoon, and Neo is in shock, and the little kid says to Neo, "You have to realize that there is no spoon."
Right. I love the Matrix. There's so many wonderful analogies that come out of that movie.
Yeah,
the
Matrix for real is something. If you look at when you watch that and apply that to some of the life, thoughts and things in life.
Sure.
It's literally, Dr. Maisha, what you're saying is the reality of what's in nature versus the reality of what's in our mind and our thoughts. And you have to be able to, if it's like you said, if it's meditation or spiritual or whatever that is, you've got to be able to challenge your thoughts.
Yes.
You've got to be able to challenge your thoughts up against something that's outside of you, whether it's another person, whether you have a friend that you can communicate with and say, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about this way. What's your view? Yeah. And then now you compare thoughts, and that takes you to another place of not on your mind, your mindset, but now you can relate to somebody else's mindset.
Right. I just had that experience listening to Dr. Maisha, just getting a new perspective and a clearer perspective, or not necessarily clearer, but just a different perspective from the one that you've been focused on can change everything.
In a minute.
In a minute. And just changing, again, I have been focused for a while now on the treatment of people with sickle cell disease.
Yeah.
And it's so horrible, and we're being challenged in so many ways in that, I need, what Dr. Maisha just said to click me back to that, hey, Kenny, you know what? You're a man of God. Yeah. You have a spirit that overcomes, and that you can apply that. And at least I can, for me,
yes.
Apply that in any situation. And so, I think that, when you're concerned about others and you want to help others, you focus on issues. But when you're in the moment, you need to have that.
In conversation, you talk to somebody. Hey, when somebody calls you, oh, what's wrong? That's the initial human nature.
Yes.
Is the lack or what's wrong or what did I do? And that, if you grew up in an environment where that is a constant, your mind is already shaped to that.
Certainly.
And it's not necessarily the truth. When I call you, it's not always something wrong.
Right.
But that's the initial. Oh, what's wrong? And then you start the conversation with what's wrong.
Sure. I feel that.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to really begin to make a journey. It's a journey. You got to choose the journey to go into love and light. You got to choose that journey.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that we don't. I don't ignore the reality of how people with sickle cell and sickle cell trait are treated.
Yeah.
And those have to be addressed in a very, very real way.
Absolutely.
And on the other side, we have to begin to become their teachers and say, do you realize what a profound person I am? Because I'm carrying something that most people cannot carry.
Amen.
And I'm handling it. And they begin to see you. You know how they've rewritten the picture of the cancer person as this person who's overcoming, who's strong, who's making it. We need to rewrite our story in the same way.
Yeah.
We are the authors
that is so
of our future.
Dr. Maisha. That is so powerful.
And Dr. Maisha, I've shared this previously before on other shows, and when you talk about the future of uncertainty and the conversations, it's like we're born into this world. As a baby, you're born into this conversation. You don't have language until your parents teach you how to talk, until you go to school and learn language. So you're born into this conversation of what is already is.
Yes.
And so how do you, being born into this world and then get language, your conversation is different than the conversation of your environment.
You must be born again. I'm going to tell you right now. You got to be born again.
So it's like you've inherited language. We all inherited this language and how we describe it. And it's all described. My dog Daisy doesn't come in the house and tell me she's frustrated because she didn't catch the cat.
Right.
Doesn't mean that she's not, but
she doesn't have language. Right. So we as human beings, we describe in all this world around us is described in language.
Yes.
Right. And therefore, because of that, we have the ability to change the language that we're using.
Change that language.
Definitely.
And that's something I've been so focused on here lately. Just changing the language that I use when I describe things. Because it really does change where you go with it. You know? I can talk to you about roses and butterflies and caterpillars and cocoons. And I can talk to you about rosebuds and transformations and sunflowers and sunny days and how the moon looks so beautiful when it rises at night. And take your mind to a completely different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick, too.
Amen.
Quick.
Dr.
And that's
Misha,
where you are.
I got to take a quick break. I got to take a quick break, Dr. Misha. We've been going for the last 46 minutes. So, again, if you're out there listening, 323-473-3100, please give us a call if you got any kind of input, any kind of comments. Whoever that 626 number is calling, I see you calling in, but you got to mute yours. I could hear you in the background of listening to the show. So I appreciate you listening to the show and want to call in, but you got to turn down your computer or what you're listening to the show on. You can call back that 626 number. But when you call in, I could hear the recording of the show going on in the background. So if you want to say something, make sure that your radio is turned down so we can hear you and give you the opportunity to speak and make your comments here on the show. This is WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. Twitter, Instagram at IamWDC. You want more information about sickle cell trait, go to WDCONSCT.org. I got Dr. Maisha on the line. I got KC here, who I know he just came from an event somewhere. So we're going to get to that
Misty's
too.
Event. Yeah,
I know you came from Misty, so we're going to get into that before the show's over. But again, today's topic is quality of life versus a cure. And you know what? This is not just the sickle cell community. You got other chronic illnesses out there for people living with lupus and epilepsy and all these other diabetes and whatever those health conditions. There is a relatedness to us, you guys. Absolutely. We are human beings. We're related already if we just look at it. And the chronic illnesses that we all battle, we can start to look at that as a relatedness. And I'm telling you, advocating for the people with lupus,
absolutely
the same life experience,
Beautiful thing, man.
We're having the same life experiences as a community that's battling these different chronic illnesses. And all I want to do here with this platform is to create that relatedness and then shift that mindset so you can think for yourself and create your own thoughts. And then, yes, we can advocate for a cure and do those causes for the cure, but what about your quality of life today? And that's where I'm coming from. Can we increase our quality of life? And I got KC and Dr. Maisha here to help me get that point across today. So keep it right here, WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. We'll be right back.
Excellent. Dr.
Did you know sickle cell disease is the most common genetic disorder in the world? In fact, millions of people are affected by sickle cell across the globe. Don't you think that a disorder of this magnitude deserves more attention? Get educated. Create awareness today. This ad was sponsored by Sickle Cell 101 Education Plus Awareness. Please visit sc101.org. That's sc101.org to learn more.
Sickle cell disease is projected to become a leading cause of disease burden, mainly due to the expected growth in the prevalence as more people are living longer due to improved treatments and advances in research. The Foundation for Sickle Cell Disease Research uses a collaborative care plan model focusing on improved self-monitoring and medication adherence and partnering with the Medical Alert Foundation to deliver crucial health information to first responders. We work smarter and better as patients and families deserve the very best that our health care and social service systems have to offer. This means better health outcomes and well-being for those with sickle cell disease. This is Dr. Lynetta Bronte, and this message is brought to you by the Foundation for Sickle Cell Disease Research. Contact us at 954-397-3251. Again, that number is 954-397-3251.
What would your life be like if you needed blood transfusions every 2 or 3 weeks just to survive, and if you had to worry about all the iron from that blood making your heart and liver shut down? That's just what life is like for a person with thalassemia. If two people who each carry the trait for thalassemia have a child, there's a 25% chance with each pregnancy that the child will have thalassemia. For more information, visit the Cooley's Anemia Foundation at www.thalassemia.org. That's THALASSEMIA, or call 212-279-8090.
All right, welcome back to WDC Radio. Again, I just want to thank you for listening in. Of course, as always, we got information here about sickle cell trait, sickle cell disease. Make sure you go to the website, WDCONSET.org. I got the campaign out here, Stop Sickle Sex. Go to stopsicklesex.com as well, get some information about it. Yeah, it's a touchy subject, and I best believe I haven't put it out there yet, but the end of the month, September 30th, the Stop Sickle Sex campaign, I got to do it. I got to do it.
Oh, dude,
and I've seen so many different health campaigns, KC, that they had a condom on the to prevent Zika, right. And I seen a condom on a banana for high school health education and things like that. I'm like, you serious? Like, so we're going to take it there? I'm like, you're going to give me heartburn about Stop Sickle Sex? Stop Sickle Sex, all it is, people, is awareness, education, and prevention. Those are the conversations. Stop Sickle Sex. And I'm you know what? I got some people that agree and disagree with just the name of it. Right. But you know what? I got something else coming for you. September 30th is going to drop. The Stop Sickle Sex campaign. Very important. And again, we're back here talking about quality of life versus the cure, and as I was telling KC, this applies to all the different chronic illnesses out there. Our conversation is sickle cell because that's the conversation that we are we live with, those conversations. But I share this with the lupus community, with epilepsy, whatever that chronic illness is. When you talk to another person that has another chronic illness, you will relate to that person on more levels than you would probably think. And yes, the cancer community, they have a lot of compassion and things that we think, again, we're thinking that they got more compassion. But our community, we can create that same kind of compassion for our community amongst ourselves.
By having compassion for other communities and showing that connectedness, just reaching out to people who have different types of illnesses and finding out what they're going through and what their challenges are. It just can't hurt to know more about what's going on in other communities and have them know more about sickle cell disease. Yeah. It's just making those kind of connections that will spread this thing all over. And again, I'm really encouraged.
All right, we got the caller back, so I'm gonna take this caller and see what this is. Caller, you live. What's the count? 626.
Okay, that's me. I'm Renisha.
Hi, Renisha. What's up, lady?
Hey, yeah, that Loma Linda thing was awesome.
I know, wasn't it?
It was awesome.
Yeah, and I've been listening since the beginning of the show, and I'm like, man, I need to get in on this.
Come on, give us some feedback. I'm listening.
Okay, what part? I mean,
we're talking about.
You're talking about the quality of life, right?
Versus the cure, yes.
Okay, now, my memory and my mind has been affected immensely. Now, I don't know if this is from the disease alone or if it's from the disease and or medications that I have to take because of the disease. So, yes, quality of life is huge as far as I'm concerned.
I remember talking to you on Sunday, and I brought up this conversation in the circle, and yes. you mentioned, with your life growing up with sickle cell, that you were the only person you knew until like 18, right?
Right.
So give us some of that, and as far as quality of life and mental aspect, and just let us hear some of that.
Well, okay, I was extremely blessed to not have to go through too many crises growing up. Like maybe once a year or so, and was not hospitalized that often. I think I was hospitalized when I was 5 or 6 for pneumonia. Then when I was 9 for a crisis. And then not again till I was 15.
Okay.
So,
So how did sickle cell impact your life, if not in the crisis aspect, but in the other parts of life aspect? How about that?
not too much.
Okay.
It really didn't.
Is it more so now?
Memory thing.
Because you mentioned that, you mentioned that day about being moved around and family members and things like that, and having to not really talk about sickle cell. You mentioned some things on that Sunday.
Right.
About
yes,
what
I
that
didn't.
was.
I hid it from people. I remember when I was in junior high, and my leg was hurting, and I was made to go to. I had to go to school. And so I'm limping around school, and one of my friends goes, "Why are you walking like that?" And I just said, "Oh, nothing. I just got a cramp," and brushed it off like that. I didn't tell people.
So I mean that creates other areas of life where. Why can't you be open about sickle cell? What kind of person you have to become to be quiet? Like you had to probably change your points of view of yourself to not speak about sickle cell.
Yeah, I thought it was embarrassing.
See.
Yeah.
So that is common in our community.
Yeah, but now, shoot, I'll shout it from the rooftop.
All right, KC, man. KC, what do you got for us, man? I know that you're an older gentleman now.
Right.
You got a lot of life experience, man.
Right.
You live with sickle cell SC. You've had your health complications with SC. The mental aspect of it. What you got, man?
The mental aspect of it is really very much like what Dr. Maisha is saying. It's challenging yourself to remember that you're so much more than this disease and than the effect that it's having on you, and the anxiety of the future when you're 57 years old living with this disease. Again, in my generation, people didn't live much past 40.
Right.
Okay, with the advent of hydroxyurea and the effect that it had on my life, I'm really blessed to still be here because this disease has been trying to kill me for about 20 years now. And so when I look to the future, I really don't know how much more future I have.
Right.
I mean, I know what's going on in my body, and I know what this disease is doing, and I'm trying to remember the verse that says, knowledge is, what does it say knowledge is? I'll leave it alone. In any case, I have to admit to having some anxiety about the future, and how long that's going to be. But again, knowing that all I have is today, it also gives me that mindset that, I have to make today that much more valuable.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure that, the things that I'm doing are going to be of benefit to not only, myself, but to the people who I've been given to love and to care for and to affect in the way of increasing the knowledge about sickle cell disease and helping other people to deal with their issues with sickle cell disease. So, again, it's I'd really like maybe to talk to somebody who could tell me, exactly, help me understand more about how I'm feeling about the future, and the anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah,
because it's really hard for me to articulate.
Oh yeah.
I don't really even use the word fear.
Right.
Because that's just not. There's no value in that word.
Yeah.
I'm a man of faith.
And what you're saying, and see, you're saying it here on the air, is you have to be even conscious of the words that you choose to talk from. I can tell you when I took landmark education and I got into that program, that curriculum, it made me responsible for what I said.
Yes.
Not to just people, but even about myself.
Yes.
And so that's how I've been learning to manage, my future of uncertainty.
Yes.
Because I can tell you in a minute, I can go dark. I can go dark just worrying about, whatever that is in my life. That a sense of control. Now, Dr. Maisha, we're all parents. At some point we're taught as kids though that you can control your future, control your destiny, control that's another inherited conversation that we're taught as kids.
Bad.
But right?
I didn't mean to laugh. I mean,
but that's true though.
We don't teach our children that. You guys know I'm a Muslim.
Yes.
And we don't teach our children. Oh, you can control your future. Be all that you can be.
Right.
If you dream it, you can achieve it.
Right.
We teach our children that it's a mix. Okay. There's a certain amount that we believe that there's a huge book in heaven that has been written, and God has written certain things. And with prayer, you can alter some of that. But certain things are already set.
Yes.
Like who your parents are going to be. At least who your mother's going to be. That's pretty much situated before you get here, obviously. You didn't control who your mother was. Like, if I was born a Rockefeller, I think I would have a really different life experience.
Oh, yeah.
And what I could actually achieve would be just a little bit different, I would say.
But
So this whole concept, it's a mixed bag. It's not... You can control, even when we're talking about the future of uncertainty, what we're really talking about is controlling your emotional and mental responses to what is happening in order to give yourself the best possible chance of a good outcome.
Amen.
That's really what we're saying.
Yeah. And that's
and
that aspect of it is not even got to be spiritual. That's an aspect of just human nature as a human being, as a person, that you can shift your life experience by your thoughts and by what you say. And again, our environment has taught us these inherited conversations of whatever life is supposed to look like, and achieving and control this and control that, and then you got to look at your identity gets created in that as a person, and how you control who you are, and then your ego gets into that, and like all those different aspects plays a part of your thought process and how you even look at yourself, and then what you even think your future is going to look like.
Absolutely.
Casey, you live with this disease, man. Give me some more, man. Give me something. The
word hope.
Ooh, that's a tricky word too.
Isn't that because I have hope for the future.
Yeah.
I have hope, to see my grandkids, and to have the relationships that, I hope to get married again someday.
We're talking about language.
But that language, is the only thing that counts what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
On today's level, it's the relationships that I'm working towards, the spiritual growth that I'm working for in myself.
Yeah.
And so with sickle cell disease, the work has to be maintaining what I have, in my body, getting my body to a place where, I'm no longer doing things that are damaging to it and that are working against my being able to be here, so that I have hope.
Yeah.
For the future.
Yeah.
And so it's really a mix of really understanding the things that you, as much as you can control anything, can control the choices that you make, and knowing that this disease isn't the last word in anything. And
I'm going to say something. I'm going to bring Dr. Maisha back in a second. Is what you're saying again, and I you got to use the definition.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We use words in life that we think mean one thing because our environment has taught us that what that means, and then when you actually look what the definition of it means, is totally different. So, and I to say what you're saying about hope. Hope is in one aspect, in the spiritual aspect, is huge.
Sure.
To have hope.
To have hope, absolutely.
And also in another aspect of hope, that you could be so far hoping something that you take no action and you're just going to sit there and wait.
Absolutely.
So to me, hope is an action word.
Yes.
Like faith.
Yes.
You can have faith, but then there's actions to go along with your faith.
Faith without
right?
works is dead.
So if you have hope, you can't hope like pie in the sky.
Right,
like hope
right.
one day. Hope
but,
can be one day pie in the sky. I hope that this happens, but then you're not taking any action to have that hope come to reality.
Right, it's like, hoping that my son will someday create a child for me.
Right.
I can hope all day long.
But if he ain't in action.
Right, he ain't in action, right? So I took an action. I adopted my friend Shibrian's daughter as my grandchild, because I want a grandchild. So
can I say something
yes,
to that?
Sure, please. Go ahead.
I think we all have some type of faith. Otherwise, we just give up.
Sure.
Some type of hope for something.
Exactly.
Whether we know it or not.
Right.
Otherwise, we, like I said, we'd just throw the towel in anytime things get tough.
Right. So you got to pull. So like I said, we have courage. Every one of us that's listening on this station, we got courage.
Yes.
In some aspect of life, we got courage. Now imagine if you could have courage in every aspect of life. If you had that same courage to go out there and drive that car, that takes courage. It takes a lot of courage to get out there and drive a car. Imagine if you just had a little bit of that courage in your health and in your awareness and in who you are as a person in every aspect, in talking to people, and not being afraid of having a conversation with that doctor. Like the boldness that it takes in all aspects. Yeah. I think that, again, but language hinders us because we say, I have all the courage I want, but then I don't have any courage over here. Or I hope that this happens, and I'm actioning that, but then I hope pie in the sky over here.
Over here, right.
From whatever that languages is fear, concerns. Dr. Maisha, you there? Give me some.
I'm here.
Give me some
and
feedback.
I wanted to say first, everything you guys are saying is right on point. Hope is a very complicated concept. You must have hope in the sense of having something to look forward to, just like the sister said.
Yeah.
But Kanisha or Shanisha? Did I?
Renisha.
Shanisha. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Renisha. No problem. So what Renisha said is so valid. She said, but my mind has been affected. And I'm going to tell you, your mind has been affected by the disease itself because you have blood vessels that feed your brain that get damaged, and your brain doesn't get that food that it needs, and that it needs. So there's damage there. You're also affected by the medicines that you take. They definitely alter your mind. Then you're also affected by the fact that you're going through something traumatic, which alters every human being's experience in life. A person who has had to manage trauma is going to be different than a person who has not had to manage trauma. And so that's why I laugh when you say, oh, you can control your future. Now, you can control your thought processes around, to some extent, around uncertainty and possibility. But I also wanted to tell KC that anxiety is completely normal. You wouldn't be a human being if you didn't have that anxiety.
Exactly.
It's about experiencing the anxiety. Yes. It's about experiencing the anxiety and then kind of stepping outside of yourself, looking back at yourself, and talking to yourself and having that conversation like, okay, you got every right to be anxious.
Sure.
Now, how can we be in a different place so that we calm this anxiety down? But you have every right to go through the anxiety to begin with. It's not wrong that you go through that.
Yeah,
that's called being a person.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Right. If you didn't go through anxiety, you would be a god, and we're not God.
Stress, and again, is language. Stress is not a bad thing. Stress can be a positive thing because it's causing you to move forward in an area of life that you can overcome. That there's a decision or whatever is going on in life that's stressing, that we say, I'm stressed out, because there's something that's in front of you that you need to take care of. That is going to move you forward to that next level of your life.
Amen.
And my mom, shouts out to my mom. She told me one time when they were moving from Michigan to Atlanta, and people was asking her at first, was she excited? right? And she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm excited," but she wasn't doing nothing to prepare for that move, right? So if you're excited about something, there's an action.
Yes.
There's actions. If you're excited to go on vacation, you're packing, you're looking for all this, you're packing, you're doing whatever. But if you're excited and you're not doing no actions, maybe you're not excited.
Yeah.
So there are in language there are words that we use that you got to be present to the definition. You got to be present to what that word, and we may be saying things that is not necessarily what we actually mean in life. And so how do we?
Well, I mean, again, I think one of the wow.
All right, somebody can mute your phone back there, Renisha.
Sorry about that.
All right, it's all right. It's reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. So we know anything is possible here on LA Talk Live, and we prepare for it. But Dr. Maisha, with your background, really, we're talking about our own life experiences. What is it that you have, to continue this conversation with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happening is we're kind of coming full circle and having an understanding. I apologize. I have children, and she's not understanding that I'm on the radio live. Hold on one second.
Okay, I
apologize about that. So what we have is to come full circle and realize that everything that we're experiencing is understandable and expected.
Yes.
But that we have a choice as to how we experience it. So, there could be a person who's driving a Lexus and they feel like they've just lost everything and they have nothing because they grew up driving Bentley.
Yeah.
And then there's a person driving a Lexus who just feels on top of the world because they grew up walking.
Right.
And hoopties. And it's a matter of understanding that wherever you are in that moment in time and space, that God has put you there for a purpose, with a purpose, or whatever. As a human being, whether you believe in God or whatever it is,
yes,
everything has purpose.
Yes.
And that you want to experience the fullness and the beauty of that purpose. Even, you think about all the struggles and what, the wife of this man that was just, gunned down in Charlotte, and the guy had traumatic brain injury and couldn't understand the commands that were being given to him.
Wow.
And he's gunned down, What was the purpose in that suffering that she's going through?
Right.
And how are we going to begin to transform our world into a better place because of that suffering, And this is the conversation that with this disease or disorder of sickle cell and sickle cell trait, that we begin to shape something very beautiful from it. And that's what our ancestors have done. And you're dealing with a very old concept called word, sound, power.
Yeah.
When you give a word and that sound vibrates, there's a power that God has put into that word.
Yes.
And that's what transforms the entire conversation and discussion.
Exactly. Dr. Maisha, before y'all let you finish that, I got to let Casey say his goodbyes. He's about to step away from the show. Casey, what do you want to say to the community, man, about this topic?
Man, again, guys, what a great conversation, Farron. Thank you so much, brother, for bringing this type of conversation to our community.
Thanks for coming and hang out with me, Casey.
And Dr. Maisha, I want to thank you. I want to give a shout out to Misty Melanie, who's in the hospital today.
Wow.
She had a great event today. Her team showed up and knocked it out for her.
Wow.
And I just want to encourage her. She's in the hospital with a crisis today.
Wow.
And we're on our way to Kiki's event tonight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're going to Kiki's event?
So we got to give Kiki a shout out. It's great sickle cell event out in North Hollywood tonight. And again, Dr. Maisha, thank you so much for all of your encouragement and your wisdom and the beautiful spirit that you have and share with us. Again, guys, I'm just blessed. You guys have a great day. And again, Sickle Cell Awareness Month.
That's right. We got a few more days left.
Shout it out.
All right, Casey. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Dr. Maisha, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So there's, again, we can't, this hour and a half is not enough time to have all the different conversations that we want to have. But I just wanted to be able to at least have people listening to where they can start to look in their own life and see where this, that feeling, those feelings of anxiety and worry, and where they're stemming from, and if they could look and see where it's coming from, they could start to speak to that and relate to it in a totally different type of, mental aspect of it.
Yeah, I think mentally the key to relate to it in a different way as best you can whenever you can, and understanding that when you can't, be gentle with yourself.
Oh.
Just love yourself through it regardless.
Yes. You got to have compassion for you. I mean, spot on, Dr. Maisha. You got to have compassion for yourself. And most of us, we don't do that. We have compassion for our animals. We have compassion for, other people. But what about that compassion that you have to be for yourself? And that's challenging sometimes.
It's very challenging, and developing that relationship with your care providers, where they help you with that compassion, because you're going to go through all the phases. You're going to go through grief. You're going to go through anger. You're going to go through regret. You're going to go through guilt. These are natural phases of dealing with a severe, intense, chronic disease. But the trick is to, when you go through the different phases, to have tools, coping skills, to get yourself to that next step and go to a higher level with it.
And fortunately or unfortunately, some of us are taught those coping skills, and sometimes you got to go to a place where you can actually get those coping skills. If you, whatever you believe in, the Bible principles are magnificent. I mean, coping skills, but if you're not into your spirituality, wherever you are in life, you got to go to that, what you believe in, what you trust in. If it's an education, if it's a personal development course, if it's something that takes you out of your own, world, and challenge your thoughts to something else that you believe in. I mean, there's
I think
so
the thing that you keep saying I really love is challenge your thoughts to something else.
You have to. Like you got to challenge your thoughts against something else for your point of view.
Exactly. And when you can't do that for yourself, you surround yourself with people that can also help you do that. And you have your go-to people to say, okay, you know what? I'm in that future of uncertainty right now, and I can't seem to work my way out. Because as Americans, we tend to be very individualistic, but the truth is we need each other. Yeah. And sometimes you need that next person to say, okay, you're there. Let me remind you of this and remind you of that, and let's talk about this Bible story, or this, this self-talk for success story, or this, whatever your thing is, that you're into that does it for you, and you have those people that surround you with light and uplift you. You have to have that.
I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Maisha, one of the things, and I've said this before on my show, and my mom was really instrumental to that future of uncertainty. Because as I transitioned out of the military, my first initial was what was my life going to look like, and I worried about that into retirement. And even I caught myself when I got a retirement date, I was living into that retirement date. And
exactly.
And so now I just moved the worry from further out to closer, because now I know I'm retiring on the 31st or whatever the date was, and now I'm living into that date, and then there was anxiety around that date. And then one day I was.
And what we do is we chase the carrot.
And one day I was on the phone talking to my mom, and my mom was like, we were talking out. This conversation came up, and she was like, you know what? Do you remember the Lord's Prayer? I'm like, yes. She's like, do you remember that? Do you remember that phrase that says, "Give us this day our daily bread"?
Daily bread. That's yes. Right.
She says, well, that daily bread means everything that you need daily. And so there is no future, there is no past. Is the daily bread is not just bread to eat. It's not just bread to eat. Right. It is everything that you need for your life. He's given us this day everything. And when my mom said that, I was like, yes. When my mom said that, I was like, oh my goodness. And I start to realize I got everything I need today. Everything that I need. I got family, support system, friends. Everything I need today, I have it today. So what is there to worry about?
Exactly. And that's the depth of trust.
Yes. And that
in the Bible it says tomorrow is going to worry about tomorrow.
Exactly.
So worry about today.
Exactly. So why are we worried about tomorrow? Why are we worried about? So my point is, why are we worried about a cure when we got quality of life today that isn't who you are today is impacting you today. The scientists,
exactly.
the
You
researchers,
work on the cure.
Yeah, you work on the cure, but you don't worry about when it's discovered.
Exactly.
The scientists are doing what they do, and I pray that we create an environment in the world that somebody who discovers that cure can come out with that cure in a safe space to say, I found a cure for sickle cell. Because if we don't create that safe environment, that person may have the cure and not going to say nothing because their life could be threatened or whatever that fear is that they have. Who knows? So we have to create an environment for that cure to be even welcomed.
Yes, right. Yes. You know what, Farron? Remember Sunday?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Remember Sunday I mentioned that I was taking something that has been helping me, and I asked Pat Corley, if they've studied it because it's done so well for me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she said it has been studied, so I guess
for certain people, right?
Right, and I was just, really, it worked so well for me, really hoping that,
say what it is.
This was something that I could bring forward for people.
Renisha, say what it is. We got time. Say what it is.
Oh, okay. Blood thinners. And it's not just Coumadin, though, because I was just reading something about this. It seems to be a difference between what I'm taking and what most people take as a blood thinner, which is Coumadin. Now, what I'm taking is, where is that paper? I have it today.
Is it one of the new ones like Xarelto?
Yes, it's Xarelto. And here on this paper that I'm looking at, it's in the category that it's in, it says it stops blood clots from being made. Now, Coumadin is in the category of blood thinner or blood clot busters. So if Xarelto is stopping blood clots from forming, that's why it's been working so well for me that the cells aren't sticking together, causing the problem. I mean, they're still there, but I mean, it's doing. It's not doing as much damage as it would if I wasn't taking it. I mean,
right, and Renisha, I wanted, again, I wanted you to say that because I have a friend of mine, Alan, who was resistant. He was resistant when he was in California of hydroxyurea. He was resistant on taking it, and then he ended up going back to Atlanta, and he got on hydroxyurea, and it actually lowered his crisis. So for years, he battled with that.
For different people because that did not work for me.
Exactly. So my point is for people to, there's so much different things out there, but you won't know. You can't base your life experience off somebody else's. You see what I'm saying?
And that's what the doctors don't understand, that sickle cell is so vast. It affects us all differently. Now, even though I wasn't around anyone until I was 18, that anyone else that had sickle cell, I had a cousin that also had sickle cell, and we're both SC. Now she, God rest her soul, she only lived into her 20s. So, and it seemed to me, from what I saw, it seemed like she suffered worse than I did.
Yeah, and you both had SC, right?
Yes.
Right. And so that shows up because, like you just said a second ago, sickle cell is an individual disease. The impacts and the results of it. Go ahead, Dr. Maisha.
Farron, one of the things in the conversation that sometimes gets on my nerves, pretty much every disease is an individualized disease.
Yeah.
But just like they do with a lot of things with us, with sickle cell, it doesn't get to be individual. Like, we individualize diabetes management. We individualize cholesterol management.
Right.
We individualize hypertensive management. We know that everything is going to affect everyone a little bit differently. The drugs are going to work differently. And sickle cell is the same in that way. Yeah. And I think that's something we need to begin to bring out. But everybody is going to experience disease slightly differently.
Right.
They want to make it all the same, again, to kind of marginalize, push to the side, and not deal with. And so we have to begin to change that story and say we're just like anybody else. Just like cancer is different in everybody.
Yes.
We are different in all of us.
And that's as a community, that's our responsibility as a community, that we have to agree on the facts about sickle cell as a community. A lot of us don't even agree on the facts about our own community. And
well, I think it's because the facts are so few and far between. You know, we don't know the facts because, man, you should have heard some of the things my family was spewing at me growing up. Right. I mean, you know, when I was finally able to be around them. And then all the stuff I've learned in the past few years going to all these meetings and, you know, support groups and stuff, and really learn about the disease. I'm trying to remember, it was something that occurred to me. Oh, this one that had me cracking up. My mama, she, of course, had the trait. And she's, you know, one of the things she said, I had the type that I grew out of. Now, that, as I look back on it, that's, you know, one of
your mom said you had the type that she grew out of? Is that what you just said?
Yes. Yes. So that's one of them. I don't know.
Because if you look, and this is in this documentary, you know this, when you look in the sickle cell, go to CDC and look up sickle cell, and it says sickle cell SC is one of the milder cases. I mean, it's written. Right. It's written in the medical books, and even in these, you know, these. Oh,
as it
SC
used to be classified as the trait.
But
that really drives me insane as well. That's one of those points.
KC that just left here has SC. I know quite a few people with SC that have the same. The crisis ain't mild. The effects of the SC disease is not mild, but it's written in the books that is mild. So when a person with sickle cell SS and you get all these, you know, these groups together, and I got SS, so I got the worst case. Well, I got sickle cell thalassemia. I got the now. There's even that in our own community of who has the worst case.
Well, you know, one of the things that I heard or learned was that with SS, it predominantly affects the internal organs. With SC, it would usually affect the bones and eyes. Mm-hmm. And now I wonder how true that is.
You know what?
I don't. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. but this is these are the things that our community, our own inner community, battles with our own selves. And so, how do we expect the world to embrace us when we don't even embrace our own community?
Yeah.
Not saying that we don't, but not saying that we don't. I'm not speaking for the whole community, but there are pockets of communities in our community that you say something about SS and SC, and there's a fight. It happens in the groups. It happens in the Facebook groups. How do we unite our own community with being able to say I have SS and SCT and SCD and sickle cell thal, and embrace those individuals for your own courage, for the individual's life. That's
I don't know. I guess one of the facts that we do know is it's a blood disorder, right?
Right.
It causes pain and damage, right?
Right. That's the reality.
That's all. That's what we need to focus on.
The reality.
That's what it does to each and every last one.
Yes.
And squash all the rest.
The impacts of sickle cell across the board is that's what it is. Whatever type you have is the type you have. All right, Dr. Misha, I got one.
I have two patients with pneumonia right now. Okay. One of them going to work. They're tired, they're coughing, but going on about their business.
Yep.
The other one, stuck in the bed, stuck in the house, too sick, too short of breath to do anything. And it's an acute illness.
Right.
You know, it's pneumonia.
Right.
You know, but what we know about pneumonia, there's mucus pockets in your lungs, you're short of breath, you're weak, you lose your appetite. In the beginning stages, you have a fever, you know, and this is pneumonia.
Yeah.
And no doctor would expect 10 pneumonia cases to all be exactly the same,
No.
and then start saying, well, this person is pretending to have pneumonia,
right,
because their pneumonia isn't exactly the same.
All right, Dr. Maisha. Again, Renisha, Dr. Maisha, thank you both for calling in and helping me with this. Shouts out to KC. I got to get out of here. My time is up. Again, this is just the scratching of the surface of the conversations about quality of life versus the cure. I think I'm going to keep this conversation on as long as I can throughout the rest of the year, and just having people, you know, to hear these different views of what this looks like. So I appreciate you both for being on the line with me today. Dr. Maisha, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you so
we'll
much.
be back next month. So keep it right here. WDC Radio. I'm your host. I'm WDC. Shout us out. What's the count? Sickle cell trait prevention. Doing free sickle cell trait screening and briefings out in Fontana. WDCONSCT.org. For more information, shout us out. Again, what's the count?
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.